Hello you lovely people and welcome. In this video I'll be taking a look at navigation, autopilot and ILS in the aerial simulations F-117 Alpha Nighthawk. Now before we get into the sim I went into Sky Vectors and made myself a flight plan beforehand, just to plan out. It's a better tool to make a flight plan in than the actual one in flight sim. So what I'm going to do, take off from RAF Lakenheath, I'm going to head north on 359 to RF Marham. Want to get over top RF Marham, turn to 315 to RF Coningsby. Once I get to Coningsby, do a touch and go to show the ILS, and after I've done the touch and go, back onto navigation on 203 down to RF Wittering, and then onto 107 back to RF Lakenheath, where I'll make a full stop. So as you can see, I've recreated the flight plan that I made with Sky Vectors. The one thing is that you will need to open the filter when you get in and switch on the nav aids, which really grinds my gears because it should be there as default. You shouldn't have to put your navigation points through a menu. It should be on the map ready to go. Who cares about landmarks? Seriously, they take precedence over navigation data. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, with that rant over, as you can see, I've got the TACAN symbols up on Marham. There's one at Wittering. There's also one at Coningsby. And we're going to be navigating on TACAN because we can't use our normal VOR, because this aircraft only has a TACAN receiver. So that could make things difficult for navigating long distance or whatever. You have to really work around it and really plan it properly, because you're going to need to find places that have TACANs, which are mainly military installations, hence the tactical air navigation TACAN part of it. But luckily enough, I managed to find a small area to do the exercise on. So yeah, like I say, Marham, Coningsby, do a touch and go at Coningsby, down to Wittering, and then back to Lakenheath. Now the first part of the flight plan from Lakenheath to Coningsby via Marham I will be doing on steam gauges, and using the TACAN code obviously inputted into the system. So it'll be purely from what I've written down and what the aircraft is telling me via the steam gauges. Then I'll get to Coningsby, touch and go with the ILS, show you how that works, get back up on the navigation, and that part we'll be doing with the flight plan that's actually in the computer, going through the waypoints and setting up the autopilot to follow that, and then I will fly from Coningsby to Wittering to Lakenheath without touching anything at all, which is a bland way of flying, but there you go. So yeah, I'll just be using altitude hold and heading bug steering for the first part, and then the second part will all be done via computer. Let's jump in, get set up and get in the air. Okay, so let's get set up in the cockpit, starting from left to right, just to make sure that you've got everything where you want it and where it should be. We'll be using these two gauges mainly for the first half of the exercise, and autopilot, which is down here, we'll be using nav and altitude hold, but we'll be using the manual heading, which means I can steer the aircraft where I want it to go using the heading bug. That, if you've used the F-18 and flight plans before, will be familiar to you. As you can see, I've not got any of the flight plan up on here. Nothing's tuned in apart from waypoint 0, which is here, Lakenheath, and it'll only show the information of where Lakenheath is and the distance, so that can be ignored for the first half. So it just because it generates confusion, because you've got clashing navigational data. So we'll pretend that's not here. Come down here to this side, we're going to tune in on our TACAN stack here. We want 24 X-ray. We're not too far away, so we should get a signal straight away as soon as I switch this on and switch it over to TACAN here. As you can see, yep, we are 17 nautical miles away. Course is 35, should be about 359, or not, the case may be. I'm pointing in the wrong direction. Get it in the right way, Mark. Yeah, so we're looking at like around about the 360 marker on the compass. So that's all lined up. We'll get the heading bug on there as well. Okay, so that's all set up for when I switch on the autopilot. Now all that's left is to leave the ground and get settled. So I'm going to take the parking brake off, toe brakes on, throttle full up, let the RPMs build, let go of the brakes, and 140 knots I'm going to rotate to 5 degrees nose high, hold it there until the aircraft leaves the ground. Rotate. Okay, and we're up. Clean the aircraft up, get the gear up. There will be a slight nose down from the aircraft you will need to fight as the gear is cycling through. But once that's done, it will settle out nicely. So we're just going to climb on the aircraft heading just until we get a bit of height, and then we will resume our navigation. Of course, it won't be 359 now, but that doesn't matter too much. Okay, so we're going to get about between 2,000 and 2,500 feet. We will do nicely. Okay, so settle that out. Now we're going to engage, hold altitude. Okay, 2,600, not too bad, I suppose. Click nav, and we're going to go with manual heading. Now that when I turn the heading bug, it will go where I want it to go. Turn it onto the right course. I'm going to throttle back as well. Don't want to be going too fast. You'll have to forgive me because I'm trying to do about a million things all at once and try to explain it. So we want heading bug there. We are still about 12 nautical miles away. Our turn is just too shallow. Okay, so that was a long slog, but that's RAF Marham there. About 5 nautical miles out, and I'm going to tune to Coningsby 48X. Okay, we'll get our steering information now for Coningsby. Get the heading bug on course. Turn the course needle, get that CDI as central as we possibly can. And there's Marham below us. Get that course needle as central as possible. Just have to keep checking on that every now and then just to make sure that we're not being blown off course by the wind. And again, as you can see, I've not used that at all at any point, so we've already got to Marham and we're now on our way to Coningsby. I suppose I could set the ILS radio up for receiving a signal. So Coningsby is 111.15, so 111.15. Okay. We'll extend that aerial now. Then all we'll need to do is flick the HSI over to ILS and we'll get the localizer information. It would be nice to have something on the central screen there, as somebody left a comment the other day saying that it takes a bit of the immersion away, which is totally right. It would be nice to have some sort of simulated flare at least, but we'll see what the next update brings. We're around about 10 nautical miles away. I will start making adjustments to get onto the ILS. There's Coningsby there. Start making adjustments now, so I'm going to head in a northerly direction. Now the purpose of me just showing you the ILS part of this, just to show you that it's there and it's working, and how to bring that to the forefront so you don't have to worry about flicking the wrong switches and things like that. Obviously I would use it in bad weather, but there is no bad weather. I could simulate it, but no. I'm happy with the way things are, so it was just there just to show you that it can be used. So we just got to wait for Coningsby to come further to my 8 or 7 o'clock. I'm going to disengage all the autopilot switches and then flick over to the ILS and we'll work our way in. Okay, so we're going to switch over to ILS. Okay, so we've got the localizer needle moving, working its magic for us. I'm going to drop the landing gear, disengage autopilot, start turning in. You can see the localizer needle has shot over to the other side because we've overshot the runway there. We'll try and bring that back to the centre line there. Bit of an awkward place to have it. Okay, bringing the glide slope up now. We're off slightly, so it's a matter of keeping the glide slope there now and keeping the localizer there. Okay, so we're basically in line and ready. We just need to decelerate. As you can see on the ILS there, we're practically smack on. You just need to remember on approach, do not drop below 160. I would say do not drop below 170 knots because you'll just enter a stall and there's no recovering from it, not from this altitude anyway. So approach speed at around about 170 knots. I know I'm going a bit too quick here. There are no air brakes, so slowing down can be a bit of a pain. Okay, and we're down. Okay, so accelerate, get back up in the air again, gear up.
Pull up, pull up.
Don't worry, I am. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start flicking all the bits and pieces for our flight plan following. For that, we won't need these anymore. We can disregard those, and everything will be done by this. So if we switch the autopilot on, let's get some altitude first. I want to be at around about 2,500 feet again. And decelerate, or throttle back. Okay, so we can enter the altitude hold. There is a Mach hold which basically will retain your whatever Mach you're doing, and it will alter the aircraft's attitude and everything in relation to keeping the speed on. Now we need to get our flight plan following. So we've got the nav switched on and come up here. This time we're going to put dest. Okay, you've got to be careful because it resets all the way to 0 again. So now we're going to need to change our waypoint to the waypoint we want to follow. The aircraft will eventually turn round. And we'll put in the TACAN in for Wittering just for fun. So put in 123X. And oh yeah, you need to take the ILS off and you need to switch back over to TACAN. Don't forget to do that, otherwise it will get away from you. Okay, getting back on waypoint. It won't try and get back onto the flight plan. It will just purely line up with the waypoint it's heading towards, and we'll just gun for it basically. So this part of the flight plan is null and void. I mean, I could go out of it, use the heading bug in manual heading, and then go back into the flight plan, but it's a lot of hassle. But I'm professional. Let's do manual. Change our heading. Let's get back on the flight plan and then I'll flick over to waypoint following. we're currently 16 nautical miles out of Wittering. We should be able to see it at some stage. That's Cottesmore, Rutland Water. So Wittering's over here somewhere. Start turning in. So Wittering must be hiding in the cloud there somewhere. Unless that's it there. Oh, that's it there. No, it's not. Right, now we are practically back on the flight plan. I'll switch back on to flight following. Must be it there. 10 nautical miles out. So just for the fun of it, this won't affect any of the navigation. I'm going to tune it into Lakenheath on 39 X-ray. There's RF Wittering. We're heading towards the Takan, which is at this end of the airfield. We'll overfly that, and then we should start making our turn. We should turn slightly before that, actually. Here we go. So the Takan is actually situated over by these parking areas over here. As you can see, as it's in auto sequence, it's gone straight on to the next waypoint, which is back to 0 again. Back to Lakenheath, so we're 39 nautical miles out. It's saying 45 on there. I don't know which one's more accurate. A bit confusing. Like I say, you can either use one or the other. You can't use both at the same time because it becomes confusing. I mean, it says 43 nautical miles away, 37 nautical miles away. As for course, it says 113 here, course 109. So there's a bit of a clash there. So if you're going to be doing navigation, if you want flight following and automation, use this and the destination. If you want to do the good old fun steering with the heading bug, you know, inputting different frequencies and things like that, use these two. But you just need to remember that you need the antenna raised and you need this flicked over to TACAN, otherwise you just won't get any signals. And then again with the ILS, if you're going to ILS, you must make sure the ILS is on here. It doesn't matter if the frequency is in there or not, you must make sure that you remember to flick these switches over, and also make sure that the antenna is raised as well. Yeah, I'm getting slightly bored of this bit, so I'm going to turn back onto the flight plan because the computer's actually being lazy. So we go. If you hit manual heading, it will zero the heading bug out for you to where it is situated on the course needle, or whichever way you're pointing, so you won't have to worry about the aircraft suddenly violently turning to the left or the right. And I've turned the wrong way. Brilliant. This is slowly becoming one of the worst navigational videos I've ever made. I am human after all, mistakes can be made. So we're going to get that back online and then back onto the route following. And there we go. Now switch it back over to flight following. Now we're back on the flight plan, that's better. Nautical miles out. Okay, now we're back at Lakenheath. We can sort out our flight landing pattern. Okay, we're going to go long downwind over Brandon and catch the ILS. As you know, I'll do a manual. Do a visual approach. So let's get the aircraft down. Get the gear down. Got to remember not to drop below 160 knots so that we don't end up killing ourselves. Okay, so that's us done a whole navigational loop and back in the ground at Lakenheath. So plenty of fuel to spare. So yeah, if you got anything from this garbled mess, then I'll be happy. If you stuck around this far, thank you. And as always, catch you in the next one. Take care.